all the information you deserve to know. I'm Ibrahim Shita.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. This is TVC Breakfast. As you can see, the table is full and we are set to bring you everything happening in the country and around the world. My name is Nelson Eta. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, a very beautiful good morning, Nigeria. Thank you for joining us. It's always a pleasure to have you join us, where we talk about everything happening in our beloved country, Nigeria. There is a whole lot to talk about on the show this morning, and definitely we'll be giving it to you. The name is Ria Abdul, and welcome to our show.
Good morning, Nigeria. Here at TVC, we present balanced, insightful analysis that will shape your views. My name is Biodo Shoni.
Great.
Of course, the table is set and full.
With Nelson saying that the table is full, he's announcing that I'm back.
Absolutely.
Because Nelson yesterday.
Oh yeah. I mean, health indeed is wealth. True. Really. So take care of yourself.
We're happy to have you back.
Really, I like the pearl.
Thank you.
It's nice.
Thank you. Mr. Shomi, how are you? Before we go into the conversation,
you're
good?
Thank you.
Ibrahim, we're good. We're pumped up.
Very well.
Well, there's actually a lot to talk about on the show this morning, but let me give you a rundown of how we'll be doing it. At some point, Ibrahim will bring us all the headlines that have made it to the newspaper. We get to dissect it right here on the show. Later on, we'll be talking about the ripple effect and the crisis that we're seeing in the Middle East. The guests will join us and we get to give you more understanding on that particular topic. When we take you all the way to Abuja, we'll be talking about security in Benue and how we can restore peace and tranquility over there. Later on, Nelson will bring us everything trending in the world of social media and more. So do make sure you grab that cup of coffee and let's have a very fantastic show. Now we'll start with the story. The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission has recovered wiretapping equipment allegedly capable of taping conversations and sensitive security documents from the Abuja residence of former Governor Nasir El-Rufai. Now the ICPC says all the suspected items were retrieved in the presence of the former governor's wife Hadiza and his son Mohammed Bello during a search on the former governor's residence. The agency also alleged that the former governor declined to cooperate with investigators and that an aide to the former governor linked to the investigation had escaped from the country. Now, the commission also says it obtained a legal order from a magistrate court in Bawari in the Federal Capital Territory to detain Mr. Nasir El-Rufai for 14 days, which is due to expire on Thursday. It denied allegations of arbitrary detention and repression of the former governor and asked the High Court of Justice of the Federal Capital Territory to dismiss Mr. El-Rufai's applications, alleging violation of his fundamental human rights. So this is the conversation we'll be having this morning. You know, yesterday, Mr. Shomi, we spoke about it a little bit during the newspaper review, you know, about El-Rufai and all the charges that he is facing at this point. You know, but we're reading this and we're also hearing that, you know, he's trying to resist, he's not cooperating and all of that. We've spoken about this wiretapping and the fact that he made these bold allegations on TV. Nobody pushed him to make the allegations. At the end of the day, what was he thinking? When we talk about wiretapping, it's a very great offense. You know, you are listening to security information. Now, the big question that people are asking is that, what did you intend to use that information for? So El-Rufai is actually in a lot of problems, and I love the fact that the evidence was retrieved in the presence of his wife and his son, so that it's not like, oh, they were not there, maybe you implanted it in the house.
Yes, you know, it's very worrisome. Why would politicians go to that extent? I mean, if you can tap the National Security Advisor, then who else can't you tap in a country? You know, it's sort of things that you will expect foreign espionage, you know. You would expect foreign governments to get involved in. What is really your interest in doing this? And to even make it more troubling is the fact that he himself came on national telly to say, look, I have been doing this. He was even reminded by the anchor, Charles Anegulu, I think, you know, that, look, do you know this is illegal? He said, yes, I know it's illegal. I have the right to do it because governments are doing it. More or less is the culture of impunity, which is used to, that nothing will happen at the end of the day. But for the first time, he's now being told something will happen. You can't commit crime and ask the appropriate agencies not to wade in. And they have actually waded in. Don't forget that there's still the issue of the 432 billion naira, which allegedly, you know, he was found to have committed some infractions by Kaduna State House of Assembly. That's a separate matter with the ICPC. So when you have the case of Daddy Yatta, which I understand the police are still looking into, because Daddy Yatta has not been found till today. You know, so, and his sons were commenting on Daddy Yatta when he disappeared. So there are a lot of issues. El-Rufai created a lot of dust and is complaining about having breathing difficulties when he's actually the one, you know, raising the dust.
Nelson, if you ask me, I think that there are so many things surrounding the man. You know, people always describe him, you know, as very mischievous, because there are so many things that, you know, just surround his person. This is a former governor, you know, and then look at the allegations that we're hearing. But in terms of this wire, you know, taping, for me, it is very important that we really, you know, get to the end of it. If evidence has been seen, let them take the evidence, like let them follow through with it, because it's quite scary, you know, just like I was saying to Mr. Biodun, the information that is gotten, what would that information be used for? Another thing that worries me, Nelson, is that our politicians, some of them feel like a demigod, and that's why when he was making these declarations on TV, he felt like nothing was going to happen to him. He made such a bold declaration, such criminal declarations, like he was just talking about, you know, nothing. And now people are saying that we need to get to the end of this. We do not want this to be another trial that we'll talk about it a bit later on. Nobody hears about it again.
Yeah. I like the way Professor Farouk Paroji puts it. He calls it history and psychoanalysis of El-Rufai's trouble with Ribadu. And he tried to, you know, simplify it by showing Nigerians and the world the kind of friendship that existed between these two hitherto, you know, this time. And so to see them snowball into this very, for want of a better word, dirty, you know, smearing of each other using political powers and position, that for them is one side of the game that they have to handle. But if truly El-Rufai, being a former governor, a former minister, has used extra, you know, technology to tap into, you know, the conversations and the workings of an exalted office, forget about who sits in that office now, of the National Security Advisor, that in itself is a crime. That if found guilty, he has to pay for it. Now his family has come out to say, well, that whatever the DSS found in his home is not true. That is seen to be argued at the end of the day when the matter is clearly spread on the table. But as it is right now, the DSS says they found that, and El-Rufai himself needs to come and answer to it. But again, this goes back to the politics of friendship, and Professor Farouk, you know, also added the matter of ego and and pride, you know, existing between El-Rufai and Ribadu. Well, again, a personal matter, but I don't really understand the brouhaha going on around the two of them at this time. Hence, all of this way. But we will be here to hear the end of it.
Of course, we will just have to be here and keep our fingers crossed. But also, when you speak about the family, of course, what would they say? They would definitely, you know, side their own. Ibrahim, I want to come from an angle that, you know, some of these politicians, they believe that they will be in power forever. And that is why sometimes they make some kind of decisions that, you know, not thinking that when you go out of power, you may be investigated. Because we're not just looking at the DSS, we're also looking at EFCC, some hefty amount of monies as well as being investigated. But for you, you know, as a Nigerian, because a lot of people are talking about this particular story, what will be the highlight for you, you know, just to make sure that if this person is actually, you know, found guilty? Because we have this thing of saying that, oh, there are some particular people that are untouchable. But right now, we want to see that everybody that commits crime is touchable.
Definitely, you can't. No one is above the law. That's what they say. In
but
fact,
this politician sometimes.
When you talk about the rule of law, for instance, by A.V. Dicey, that says is an absolute supremacy or predominance of law over everybody, both the ruler and the ruled, and all the decisions taken in the country. So no one can say that I'm above the law or anyway. It just depends who the law is going to catch. But in this case, it looks like did I just say Rhea? It looks like El-Rufai has actually, you know, what's it called? Stirred the hornet's nest, and it's something that it's really going to bite very hard. But in all of this, these are some of the questions that I actually wrote down, which I believe that, you know, because the case is in court, he's been charged to court, and it's the judge or justice that will make the final, you know, decision on this. These are some of the questions that will be asked. Was the detention lawful and consistent and constitutional? With constitutional norms? Was the search warrant sufficiently specific and justified, even though that the ICPC said that they did the research? I mean, the research warrant was carried out, you know, by court order and in the presence of the family. The other question that will also be answered is, have El-Rufai's rights been unlawfully violated because he has challenged fundamental human rights and all of that? And lastly, will the ICPC be able to charge him formally based on the evidence they claim exists?
You know, Ibrahim, this is a story that we can go on and on about it, but we'll definitely bring them more updates. But at the end of the day, what we want to see is that justice is truly served. But meanwhile, the family of former Governor Nasir El-Rufai have condemned the allegations of recovering sophisticated phone taping equipment and sensitive security documents from his residence in Abuja. A statement issued on behalf of the family by Mr. El-Rufai's son, Bello, who is a serving member of the House of Representatives, described the claims contained in the court filing submitted at the FCT High Court in Abuja by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission as falsehoods and part of a malicious smear campaign. The statement said no such equipment was found during the search of the former governor's home by ICPC agents. All right, we'll go on a quick breather now. When we come back, it will be time for the newspaper review. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us. We'll be right back.